we welcome in people in the world of baseball who have found themselves in the midst of some crazy baseball rivalries. We're going to have a different guest each and every week. This week, I'm so excited to have Kevin Millar on the show. He's always a fun person to talk to. I know Jon and I have some good questions for him. But you can join us as well. We're not just talking to Kevin. There's other topics we can talk about. So if you have any questions about baseball, what's going on, obviously the World Series just ended. Off-season just started. So Jon's been busy with all of his off-season goodies. Please join us. You can write something in the comments. We'll try to get to as many questions as we can. Or you can download the Fancred app. If you're watching us on the Fancred app, you can look at the upper right corner. There's a button there. If you click that, it'll bring you into a green screen room. You'll talk to our producer, and then he'll be able to hopefully get you on our show, and you can come ask Jon and I whatever question you might have. So with that said, Jon, you were in LA for the World Series now, weren't you?
I was indeed. Very exciting. And I got to hand it to the Boston Red Sox. I think we underrated them. Very nice. They deserve it. I think we underrated them all along. They won 108 games and we were still underrating them. Everybody was picking. Many people were picking the Yankees. Everybody was picking Houston. I think Houston had that great run differential, which a lot of people look at more than wins and losses. I think we probably should have looked at wins and losses. Boston was the best team during the regular season. And they were the best team by far in the playoffs. And I think they are one of the better teams of all time with 119 wins.
Where do you rank them on teams of all times?
You know what? I would say the 90, and I'm going to get accused of being a New Yorker here, but I'm still going to go with the 98 Yankees at the top. At least since I've been covering, it's hard for me to rank the 61 Yankees. I was rather small at that time. Or the 27 Yankees. I was non-existent at that time, or whomever. But in terms of, since I've been covering, which is a long time, more than a generation, 33 years, I think the 98 Yankees I would rank one. And if you ask me today, I'm going to say this Red Sox team would be number two, which is pretty good considering the A's team that was really spectacular, 88 to 90, and some of the other very good teams. Some of the teams that were great didn't make it all the way. So if they didn't make it all the way, I can't consider them as one of the top teams of all time. The 2001 Mariners, of course, I'm talking about, is one of those teams. I would say the Red Sox, 119 wins. I'm going to put them second right now since I've been covering, which is around 1986.
What makes that Yankees team better than this Boston Red Sox team?
Well, I got to go with the wins. 125 wins. It's easier to do it that way. 119. But you know what? Boston went through, I think, a tougher division at that time. The AL East, fantastic now. They went through two 100-win teams in the playoffs, so the gauntlet was very, very difficult. And if you want to tell me that this Boston team's ahead of that 98 Yankee team, I believe it. I think it's possible just based on the competition that they face. But I'm still going to go with those extra 6 wins. Yankees did sweep in the World Series in 98, but, of course, they were playing the Padres. No offense, San Diego people. It's a lovely town, but this Dodger team was better than that Padre team. I don't think there's any question about that. And to beat the Yankees in 4, to beat Houston in 5, and the Dodgers in 5, and they almost won that game 3, that spectacular game. It could have been a sweep. Close. Pretty impressive.
Did you stay for all of Game 3?
You know what? I am obligated to, I think. I don't know. I'll have to ask the bosses here at Fancred whether I was allowed to leave. But, yes, I did stay. And you know what? It was very late on the East Coast, but in the West Coast, it was still only around midnight, I think, something like that. So it wasn't crazy, but it was obviously a very long game. I'm not sure if there was ever a game that started in the afternoon, went through the evening, and ended in the morning. And it did end after 12, as I recall. So someone could correct me if anybody can recall one that started in the afternoon, went through the evening, and in the morning, went in all 3. Maybe it's possible, but I wasn't at that game if there ever was one.
That's great. Here's the thing about those long games. When they cut off the food, I mean, you're screwed. If you don't have snacks with you, you're just starving, and you can't leave and go get food. You can't get delivery there, so you're just sitting there hungry.
Well, I have to say we were in the press box. I think there was a dessert cart at the 15th inning, so I didn't do that. I need to watch my weight a little bit that I'm not having the dessert cart at what is probably 2:30 in East Coast time. It's a little bit much, but they had candy and hot dogs throughout, which might explain why many of us sports writers aren't exactly in tip-top shape. There was no salad available to any of us.
I remember there was a super long game when I was covering the Red Sox, and you were in the stand. I was in the stands, and they just had no food, and it got to a point where I had a pack of peanuts, and I was giving one peanut to every person around me because everyone was just starving. But
well, you're very nice. I would have hoarded the peanuts myself. I will tell you this about Dodger Stadium, and many people have said, I love Dodger Stadium. I think it's remarkable that it's 56 years old and in that kind of condition. I don't know too many 56-year-olds, myself included, that are in that kind of condition. And it's a wonderful stadium. I do think the Dodger dogs are a little overrated, perhaps. I mean, I don't want to say that too out loud, but I give the edge. I will say this weird thing about the concession stands at Dodger Stadium. The New England clam chowder is absolutely fantastic. Probably not better than Fenway, but absolutely fantastic. And the nachos, and consider we're, within 2.5 hours of Mexico there. Nachos are gross, disgusting, awful. So very odd. It's something I discovered in the World Series.
Clam chowder, good. Nachos, terrible.
I know. You would think it was the opposite in L.A., but that's the reality of the situation. Not just my opinion. That's reality.
Reality. We should write a book about stadium food.
There's a great book to be written there.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I like it. Nick in the comments said, who replaces Kimbrel for the Sox next year?
Very good question. I've seen Adam Ottavino speculated, a fantastic talent with great stuff from the Northeast. I think he's from Brooklyn. You don't see that very often. So I don't think he'd be opposed to going to a big market on the East Coast. I do see closer potential there. They could still re-sign Kimbrel. Now, I think Kimbrel probably cost himself some money in the postseason, whether he was tipping or just didn't have the control, wore down, whatever. I think a 5-year contract was almost a fait accompli going into the postseason. And now, as I projected in Fancred, and I think my expert did too, I think we're looking at a 4-year deal, still a very high number. But I'm not sure he's going to get that 5-year deal at this moment.
Speaking of those projections, you released 131 projections and predictions for what is going to happen this offseason. So we're going to get to that in a little bit. We'll dive a little bit deeper into that. But just overall, you look at the top two guys. You got Machado and you got Harper. Where do those two guys rank first and second on the list?
Well, on my list on Fancred, we had Harper as number one. Now, we did a poll a few weeks ago, and Machado was the winner. 12 out of 18 executives said Machado would beat Harper and get the bigger contract. Now, that poll was taken before this World Series. I think Machado hurt himself in the World Series. This story was just my expert, one expert, and me. So, I didn't poll another 18 executives, so I'm not sure where it went, but the expert that I used, I thought had a very high number for Harper. I didn't see it quite that way, but he had $374 million. Now, this is a guy who beats me every year. We've done this 10 years, and I lose every year. He has the better predictions, better prognostications, and it's unbelievable to me because he hands his in to me, and I can look at them and either go $1 higher or $1 lower, and I still end up losing. So, that may be more reflection on me than him, but one year, I think he got 22 right on the button. Not last year. That was a tough one. But he had Harper for 374. I was not near that figure myself.
That's a lot of money. We're going to get a little bit deeper into that shortly, but we have our first guest on the fan line, Kevin Millar himself, legendary Red Sox first baseman, part of the 2004 World Championship team, superstar on television. Hello, Kevin.
Well, hello, guys. How y'all doing?
How are you doing?
You know what I'm doing right now? Check this out.
Yeah, are you in Austin right now?
I'm in Austin, but check it out. I'm going to turn the phone, but we got full-on 2-on-2 football. The DeRosas just got here. We got little lackeys, so they have the same kid. So we get the lackeys versus DeRosas and Millar's out here. Check it out.
Who's winning?
Can you guys see or no?
Oh, yeah.
Beautiful.
What's the score? 21-0.
Oh, wow.
Wow, very close. Is that your backyard? It looks like Central Park to me. I don't know.
Central Park, John. Here in Austin, you can grab a couple acres for nothing. In New York, you grab I think it's 1,100 square feet for a lot.
Hey, Kevin, you got some good neighbors there, don't you?
Well, just D-Row, Heyman and Jenny.
Hey,
Hi,
guys.
Gio. How you doing? Is John Lackey there too?
Huh?
Is John Lackey there too?
Hey, he likes a 1 year. He said his boy McCann likes a 1 year, $6.5, $7 million somewhere, please.
That sounds about right. McCann's
Lackey
terrific.
might come
What a
back
great.
off the blocks if we can get 20. I get 5, he gets 15.
Oh my goodness. All right. So Kevin, you had quite the fun time traveling around all the World Series games. Now, diehard Red Sox fan, obviously they're totally in the moment with this Red Sox team, and this is the best team in the history of the Boston Red Sox. But there's a lot of fans out there that say that 2004 team still ranks higher. What's your opinion as far as the two teams go?
You know what, Jen? I'm not just saying this because it's us, but the 04 team was a real special club. It's a different era, but there's a lot of Hall of Famers on there and future Hall of Famers. You could go ahead and say, obviously, Pedro Martinez, a Hall of Famer. Schilling's always going to be in the debate. Manny Ramirez at some point will be always in the debate. Big Papi. So there's a lot of like scenes on that team, but they're very similar. And that's what I was saying about those 18 team. And I wasn't just saying that because they have a lot of guys. When you saw the 18 Red Sox, people weren't thrilled. They were still underdogs in 2 out of these 5 series at 5 games in Los Angeles. They never got the credit. Even they were underdogs going into Astros games, a couple scenes. So they're one of those teams that never got the credit, but you look up and they won 119 games, including the World Series. So they're very similar to us because we had our stars and they have Mookie Betts. They have their J.D. Martinez. You can put Craig Kimbrell in there with a lights-out closer. But then they have a lot of baseball players. And then we had the similar thing like I named you with Pedro and Manny and David and Schilling. And then we had kind of like just Mark Bellhorn and Bill Millar and, Orlando Cabrera. Let's go there. And, myself and Trot Nixon. They were just common guys, right, that kind of went out there and played baseball. So we're very similar, but I give the nod to the 04 team.
I understand. I know. Oh, look at that. You have a visitor there. Hello. What a cutie pie.
Oh, that's Paris.
Oh, hey.
That's Jenny and John.
Like, who? What?
Well, you look at me. That's Mr. John. That's Mrs. Jenny.
Hi. I have to give you credit, Kevin. You are an overachiever in many ways. Your kids are absolutely beautiful. So I've seen many.
Well, I appreciate that.
I want to ask you the 2014. One thing you could say is, this team won 119 games in 2018. So you could say, okay, historically, if you're going to rank them, you probably put them ahead. 2004, more special because you broke the streak. I mean, that is really the amazing thing about it. But I wanted to ask you, and by the way, I think you underrated yourself. You put yourself as kind of a common player. I went back and looked at your record. You have a lifetime OPS of over 800. So you were pretty good. I think you were surprised. Exactly. That's what makes him great on TV. It's self-deprecating. No idea. He probably didn't have any idea. But anyway.
No, I did.
But anyway, what I would say about your contribution beyond your exploits on the field is marketing. And I don't mean that in a pejorative way. I mean, look at the value of marketing. We have a guy who's president of the United States right now who's a brilliant marketer, very entertaining. So you are credited with coming up with the idiots and the cowboy up. Is that right? Where did you come up? If you came up with it, how did you come up with that idea? Because, I mean, that will never be forgotten.
No, I'll tell you the cowboy up one was in 03, and Derek Lowe had left a game, and we were in a run with the Oakland A's. We were like 3 games out, 4 games out, and it's like the last couple weeks of the season, and we're chasing for this wild card. And Derek Lowe was a big game. We're playing the A's, I believe, and he left the game because he had a blister and literally couldn't throw it. And so the media was all over him. I'm like, timeout. D-Lowe is an unbelievable teammate. He pitches every single day, every single night. He's not afraid of anything. Like he left this game because there was blood dripping and fingers looking like it was going to fall off. He couldn't throw anymore. So it kind of made me upset. They were all around his locker, and there was about, you know how it is in that clubhouse, about 40 cameras and lights. And so I kind of yelled at him. I said, hey, y'all come over here. Y'all need to get out Derek Lowe. He's a good dude and blah, 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 blah. Y'all need to get out me or these guys or appreciate these guys because, we're a bunch of cowboys. And now let me just be honest with you. I grew up in Los Angeles for 20 years. I've lived in Texas for 27 now, but I'm a fake cowboy, okay?
You're a real cowboy. Come on.
Hey, I dropped this whole, you need a cowboy up, and this whole city needs a cowboy up. Well, this is no baloney. Next day, I get a guy come up to my locker. He goes, what's cowboy up mean? I go, well, it means if you're like a cowboy, you fall off your horse, you get back on. Okay, great. I don't know, but we have good dudes in this clubhouse, and we weren't here 86 years ago and kind of just started festering on that. And the next day, it says Millar tells the city to cowboy up, and the Red Sox and the media and the whole city had more of cowboy hats and country music in the Northeast than you've ever seen life on its own. So the heads got shaved, and I brought these handlebars back, by the way. I don't know. My daughters hate it. They think Daddy looks terrible. Right? So, John, what do you think about the mustache? What do you think about the Fu Manchu? No?
No. No.
The guys like it, and the girls hate it.
Oh. I don't know why you guys do that.
Oh, you know what? I had a beard, and it's kind of, I had to put mascara in it now, Jen. So, like, I was out of that waterproof mascara. So now I only have to do these couple lines. That's why I kind of went to the mustache for a second.
You can get the just for men.
Yeah, but it looks too dark. Then it looks it's like totally. I like to, I'm almost 50, so I got to at least have a little gray.
You look good. You look good. All right. Mark in the comments says, who was your most memorable or favorite teammate? I know that's a tough one because you've had so many, but favorite teammate, who do you got?
I'll tell you, I've had some great teammates, honestly, God, from back in the Marlins days. Ryan Dempster's like my brother, and he's our colleague at the MLB Network, and he's one of the best ever. Like, I literally, I always said if I was a girl and going to marry somebody, it'd be Ryan Dempster. He cooked, he cleaned, he kept the house clean. It was just constantly. So, our beginning years, awesome. You don't get better than Big Papi, and that's a true story. I've never seen him say no to an autograph to a child. I've never seen him say, no to anybody without making it feel like welcome for asking for an autograph or a picture. Like, he makes the fan feel welcome. So he was a wonderful person, better person and player. But, Gabe Kapler and I spent a lot of days eating breakfast. Mm-hmm. And he was, bench players or your backup catchers like Doug Mirabelli. Those guys were like your hitting coaches, because they were there watching every at-bat every year. So they were a great help. So there's so many great teammates. But I'd say, Dempster and Mikey Lowell and Mike Redmond back with the Florida days. You got Big Papi and Trot Nixon and Billy Miller and Kapler and the boys, so there's so many. I'll give you that group.
That's a pretty good group. But we had Dempster on. He was fantastic. And I know that in one of your interviews with Dan Patrick, you said he had one of the best shower bodies that you had ever seen. So you don't have to repeat that.
Kid, right? For a Canadian kid, he's a handsome. And you know what he has, Johnny? He's got that barbecue sauce color that we don't see much. It's between red and brown. It's like a maroon.
I know what you're saying. And he's also a style master, too. I mean, the guy, no better dresser than him. I mean, Harold's up there, but he's right there with him.
You, Cliff Floyd, Ryan Dempster are the three that come to my mind. They're not the
What? We were talking about your teammates. Now, seriously, one of the most talented teammates that you had was Curt Schilling. And since you were on that 2004 team, I want you to tell the story here. And I don't know if you know. You might not know. Was that real blood on the sock? Maybe you don't even know.
What about? Let's say it again because you went out for a second.
Was that real blood on the sock?
Yeah, no, that was ketchup. And so, oh, you guys didn't know that yet? So we're gonna break it up. We're breaking news. No, I will tell you this. That was my video camera that I recorded when that movie came out 4 days of October. And you see the stitches that they did this surgery in the back of the training room. It was Dr. Morgan. I'll never forget it. And I'm like, what the heck? It was a tendon that was over the kind of the ankle bone that was causing him all the pain. He couldn't walk, right? And next thing you know, they cut this thing open. They sutured it over. And it was like, what's going on? And then, they put in 6 or 7, 8 stitches. But the kicker was, it was a shill way, was that, we had the writing on the spike to go along with the blood on the sock, and you can bandage that up. So Yankee fans, I can see how they can get on their nerves. But Red Sox fans, we wouldn't have won it without him, man. It was pretty awesome to kind of witness and see. And that every fifth day, you love the guy.
Yeah, I mean, he played through pain, no question about it. And I have voted for him for the Hall of Fame just about every year. But now, are you just to clarify? You think that was blood, though?
Yeah, I think it was barely a little bit of blood with maybe barbecue sauce, ketchup from the In-N-Out Burger because Schilling loved to eat. He still loves food.
You didn't name him as one of the best bodies in the shower, I noticed.
Yeah, you know what? I lost my lunch showering with Schilling. He actually was. He was better than any diet pill. Just go shower with Schilling, you'll throw up.
You mentioned David Ortiz. Obviously, we all love Big Papi. You had a little sleepover party at David's house. Bill in the comments said, "Tell us about sleeping over at Big Papi's house. Who came up with that idea, and how did it even happen?"
All right, so I landed for the World Series on, I think it was Monday evening, and then when was game? When was the first? Yes, Tuesday and Wednesday was games 1 and 2. So I landed. I text Papi, said, "Where you at?" It was about 10:30. He goes, "Bro, come over to my bar. Let's go. We're gonna have a drink." I go, "Perfect." So let me draw with my suitcase. So I did that, and then I ran to Mark DeRosa and Heidi, his wife. They were doing something in the lobby, and I was like, "Dude, you want to go have a quick drink with Papi?" Let's go. So we went over there to have a quick drink. Well, it lasted for a few drinks and maybe multiple drinks, and then multiple drinks. Well, then what happens is then the place closes down. So Papi's going to take us back. I'm like, yeah. So he's got a driver, takes us back, and then he's like, "Bro, why don't you sleep over tonight, man? Screw it, let's go. I'll take you to the house." I'm like, "I'm in." I looked back at Heidi. Always you got to be careful with the woman. Like, she doesn't have her makeup, she doesn't have her stuff. She was in. She was a gamer, and then Mark's like, "Let's go." So we drive 30 minutes outside town. And we have a full-on adult sleepover at Papi's. We had a blast, set up till 4:30 in the morning, just telling stories. And, we become better players when you're done playing. You start telling all these glorious stories about us. We really weren't that good when we played. And but we did that. It was a blast. So I said the next day, I said, "Hey, we're going to have to start a fad. Let's start an adult sleepover." Like, the kids always want to sleep over.
Yeah.
I can't, me and Lackey have a sleepover. Me and D-Row have a sleepover. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. Like an adult sleepover. So I've been trying to start this trend.
I'm surprised you haven't had many sleepovers in your neighborhood.
What's that?
I'm surprised you don't have tons of sleepovers in your neighborhood.
Yeah, man. We got who also moved down here is Chris Bosch. So we got actually a nice game.
Good addition.
He's Lackey's next door neighbor. We got Buckholtz over here. Arietta's moving 2 doors down from Lack. So we got a nice little group. I'm trying to recruit DeRosa out of Atlanta, but he's not falling for it yet. But I'm trying.
Nice. Good effort. Good effort. You know what I want to do is I want to go back to the beginning a little bit. I did a little research. I actually worked at a paper called the Santa Monica Outlook pretty soon out of college, and you're probably familiar with that. You are from West LA or Westwood, somewhere in that area, right? You went to Uni High, as they call it.
Went to Uni High. Yep, Uni High.
Anyway, I went, and I have a friend who worked there, Daniel Lewis, who covered high school baseball at that time. And he said he remembers. He says you were a good player, but you were not the best player on your team. There were a few players better than you. He thinks you were maybe second team All Bay area, which would be the Marina and Santa Monica. He's not sure, but that's what his recollection was. How do you go from there to being a guy who has a long major league career with an over 800 OPS in his career? How did you do that? I mean, there are a lot of guys who are second team All Bay State or Bay Area, or whatever they call it. Not many of them become major league stars. How'd that happen?
You know what's funny is that, and that's the good thing about like this game. And right now we're in a kind of area where it's all the smaller guys: Mookie Betts, Alex Bregman's, Jose Altuve's, Trevor Story. So you have so many of these smaller guys that are dominating the game. This is what makes this game special, right? From an Aaron Judge all the way to Jose Altuve. I was a guy. I wasn't the best player in high school. I was probably the 4th best of my team, and I was a normal guy. I didn't hit a home run over the fence until I was 11th grade. And that's Little League all the way through. It's just the way it was. But we all mature at different levels, and so I started kind of getting stronger my junior year in college. Maybe my sophomore year at junior college. I went to LA City Junior College, never was drafted, and went there for 2 years, and then went to Lamar in Beaumont, Texas. But it's the same thing. I think we all mature differently. And all those home run hitters in Little League and all those home run hitters in 13-year-old, all-star games, they're not really in the big leagues because they stop growing, and then they don't know how to kind of become the kids that dominate all the way up rarely never make it. You got to kind of grind and learn how to fail in baseball was always my kind of ways because, I mean, there was a whole lot of doors. I had 5 times to get drafted, never got drafted once, and played a lot of winter ball. But, kept that dream alive and the appreciation of playing in the big leagues every day. I never, ever forgot that. Like, every day I went to a big league clubhouse, I was happy. I was thankful, and I don't think it's like that this day and age because of the guys get there at 20, 21. They don't know really what it's like to be on a bus, so it's a different scene.
It's a different world these days, for sure. How do you feel like the game is changing over the years? I mean, it's not that you've been out of it for too long, but it's definitely evolving in a way. Are you happy in the direction it's going, or do you think it needs a little of that old school baseball back into it?
I just think that we're losing our eye test, and John, can attest to this. I don't know. Our eyeballs. We're missing the Jim Leland, the gut feeling. There's no more of that anymore, unfortunately. We don't see any more gut feelings because we're so worried about answering the question if it doesn't work, or if I don't feel like playing no doubles in the seventh inning with 2 outs, I don't care. If a double happens, I'll talk to the media. You're losing that now. We have a younger, scene. We don't have the veteran position players anymore to kind of get on somebody for not running the ball out. But it's an interesting dynamic. The players are bigger. The players are stronger. They're throwing harder. That's cool. But we're losing the eye test in this game, and that's what's scaring me. I don't like when sometimes this game's it's on the gut. Hey, Heyman, you're up there pinch hitting against Mariano. Well, you're righty on righty. I don't care. You've been swinging the bat good. You've been, you having a great batting practice. Or we lose that now. It's all on the numbers, and the information's getting out of hand, in my opinion. And I just don't want to lose the eye test of baseball. It's a great sport.
Well, yeah, the Heyman versus Mariano matchup, that would not go very well.
That's my gut.
I don't think that would go too well. Now I know how you became a baseball star, but how did you become a TV star? And you are one now, so don't deny it. How did that be? I mean, we know with Harold that he was always wanting to be on TV, and he talked to all the TV people and made it happen. I mean, it was a desire of his forever. How did this come to be? I mean, was it just those funny interviews with Dan Patrick that started, or how did you get to be a star?
It's funny because I did the Best Damn Sports Show a couple times with Chris Rose, and at that point we had a relationship. He kind of followed my career, and he kept kind of wanting me to retire from 06, 07, 08. Boys, you guys say what's up? What's up? Say it's Mr. John. So that's little DeRosa right there. That's Brooks DeRosa. That's nice. Jenny and John. Hi. And that's Cash. That's my oldest.
Nice.
Hi,
guys. Nice.
So, see, we get bored here in Texas. We have daycares over here. No, the TV thing was Rose and I had a relationship, and then so every year in Baltimore, it's like, hey, are you done playing yet? I'm like, no, I think I'm gonna go another year. But he was very good at TV. He's in it for a long time. Best Damn stopped, and then literally I got a chance to go wear a suit and tie, and did the MLB Tonight once I got released. Now I didn't know anything about TV. They never teach you how to be on TV. It's kind of like weird. You got an earpiece in, you're like, oh my God. But I tell you what, the network's awesome because they allow you to be who you are. And then they start creating shows. And Tony Petitti asked me about doing intentional talk or a show at your house. And I'm like, what? Yeah.
Hi, D-Row.
Look at him. He had to put a little jacket on. Listen, it's a tick chili. Check him out. The kid. Look at the kid from Jersey.
He looks good.
So, but anyways, that's how quick it happened. So the first 3 months we're trying to do the show, and it was terrible. I didn't know what I was doing, and it was hard. But I'll tell you what, Chris Rose has helped me out a ton, and guys like Harold Reynolds that were around because I'd ask questions because I wanted to be good or understand it. And guys to this day now, that come in to do stuff for the network, will call me and ask me. I'm like, guys, I'm gonna give you the same advice. Like, speak up, feel like you're yelling, show energy, and be you. That's why they're bringing you in. Don't try to be the perfect TV guy because that's not what they want.
Well,
not everybody's you, though.
Right. And that's
one of a kind.
Because a lot of these guys go from playing ball to the analyst role. And in that role, you're supposed to be serious and you're supposed to, just give your opinion and it's very straightforward, but you get to have fun. So, and that comes across very well on screen. And the players that are now coming on and doing interviews with you during Intentional Talk, I mean, the interactions there are completely different than any other show because of your personality. It just works.
Yeah, Jen, and the trust. I mean, listen, when Jon Heyman's calling you, it's about a move or Ken Rosenthal, or they understand that too, right? And then if Kevin's asking me a question, tickle bunny question, right? Want to talk about how you are in the shower, we're going to see who's cheap. So there's our show allows the players kind of to drop their shield
Yeah.
on the baseball questions, the struggle questions. You're in a slump, or you're hitting 500. I think it allows them to now, like, you try to humanize them, because the clubhouse is great. I mean, you understand it. John's been around it, but for those, like, the clubhouse guys are funny. Guys are good guys. They're dads. They're friends. We only see salaries. We see big cars. We see big jewelry, and that's like, and then we see numbers. But at the end of the day, like, this is what they do. They barbecue, they hang out, they parent, and they're funny. So I try to kind of bring a TV show into, like, make it like a clubhouse TV show without crossing lines. Some get reprimanded in my ear, as John knows. They'll say, enough. But that's kind of our show.
And it totally works. We got a question in the comments. Pat said, if Kevin was the GM, how far would he go to keep Evaldi? Now, we're serious.
Yeah, that'd be the one guy. I mean, there's a couple good ones. Joe Kelly and Kimbrel and Evaldi. There's a couple good free agents for the Red Sox, and Steve Pierce. But I think Nathan Evaldi, we talked about Josh Hader being an X factor for the Brewers during the postseason. And I think Nathan started taking on that role, because this guy comes in for relief, throws 97 pitches, goes 6 innings. He was ready to pitch the next day. He was able to come in the bullpen and bridge the gap a game to Kimbrel for the 8th inning. He started a magnificent game. But I really think that this kid's, hopefully after the 2 Tommy Johns, he's got something special. And that arm, man, when you throw in 101 with that stuff, that doesn't come around too often. I can't believe he's been with so many teams, because I would have made sure that arm was off before I let go of that talent.
Well, I wanted to ask you, your show is great for kids, but I think there's an issue with getting kids interested in baseball. I don't know if your kids are interested. I have a 12-year-old daughter. She may be the only 12-year-old girl on earth who's interested in baseball, and she, in fact, makes me turn off MSNBC or whatever I'm watching and switch it over to Quick Pitch in the morning. Not many 12-year-old girls do that. But what do you think we should do to capture the imagination of kids? Do you think speeding up the game helps? And how would you speed up the game? Is there anything you would think of? I know they've limited the mound visits. They've done a couple things. They've shaved a couple minutes off here and there. Is there something? And you follow Boston, obviously. Their games they take a while. You give them credit. Yeah. They grind it out. They have great at-bats, but their games are quite long.
The Yankee Red Sox games are ridiculous. I think, at times, the games they're long. And if you're not a baseball fan, I can see where baseball is boring when people say that. They want to see football or basketball because it's quick. But those are events once a week, Baseball's every single night. I just think of the youth, and I spoke last year at, like, a coaches committee. I'd like get kids to come back the next year. How do you do that? Well, you know what you do is you allow them to have fun. We are so caught up in this whole, we got to win, 7, 8, 9 years old. They're screaming at the kid. I'm like, guys, what are we talking about? But it's almost like the coaches at time are ruining it for the kids. Well, then it takes them a rough year of a bad coach at 13. They're going to say they don't like baseball. Really, they like baseball, but the coach was a jerk. So we forget about that aspect of it. We're teaching coaches or parents how to coach and how to allow kids to have fun and be kids, because until you have a vein in your muscle, your bicep, does it really matter? I mean, they're worried about if we're going to go on the lake after the game and who they can invite over. But I think you want them coming back. You want kids coming back. And at the big league level, they're make this game faster by doing this. I just think it's the game of baseball. It's methodical, hopefully gut feeling. We're not losing that. And hopefully, the game keeps going this direction, because salaries certainly are.
John just came out with 131 predictions of what's going to happen this offseason. So if you're bored, you can check that out. But
that was a while.
Yeah. What are you most looking forward to this offseason? Is it, whatever contract Machado or Harper is going to get, or what big storylines are you excited about?
Yeah. The Machado and Harper scene is going to take over the world, right? We're going to wait and see and wait. Josh Donaldson's an interesting sign. I think if he's healthy, he can come right back to form. I know, he's at the 3-year-old, and Theo Epstein always said once you get to here, you start going down. But it's an interesting sign. You might be able to pick him up for a normal salary, and I'm interested to see him go somewhere and play. I just love the game, and some of these numbers you hear about, you've heard 400 million, 300 million, 200 million. Did Machado hurt himself in the postseason? Who knows? But I'm sure that's what we're all going to be listening to and tuning in for.
What do you think? What do you think about Machado in the postseason? Whether he hurt himself or not, what did you think of the whole thing? The non-hustling. I don't know if you were. I was in Milwaukee. He didn't run the ball out, and then he had explanation. Right. Rosenthal, the stepping on Aguilar's foot. That's the one that bothered me. But the one that bothered teams, I think, was the admission that he's not really Johnny Hustle. What do you think?
Yeah, and I'm sad. Honestly, God, John, I felt sad for him. I don't know if we're trying to be this fake tough guy. I think sometimes we put on a uniform, we think we're a little tougher than we are. I think money brings you power, so then now we got some power and authority in society. But really, at the end of the day, you got to brush your teeth looking in the mirror. And that's the way I always said, I don't care who you are. At the end of the day, you got to brush your teeth, look in the mirror. And this is the best time of your life. You're in a World Series. You're in the postseason. You're playing on the biggest stage in the world. It's what you want to do since you're a kid. You're getting ready to hit free agency and make millions of dollars. Life's good. And Manny's a good kid. We've had him on the show a bunch of times. Funny, him and Jonathan Scope. All of a sudden, it was like this villain. He wanted to take on this villain thing. We didn't need to step on Aguilar's foot. That was frustration. He was out by a foot and a half or 3 feet, regardless if my foot was all over the bag or not. Obviously, Jesus didn't have a problem with it. They played Tickle Bunny 3 pitches later. So why should I be mad at that? But the hustle thing, that happens all the time. I mean, I know it's the postseason and stuff, but, hey, there's no one perfect out there who's going to run the ball out every single time. It's never happened in the history of the Gardner's types, okay? So that doesn't bother me. The statements probably didn't help. Is he going to make a lot of money and be really, really wealthy? Of course he is. I just want him to have fun in doing so during this process. Because if you're that tough or you want to be tough, then there's a UFC scene also. You can get in the octagon. But baseball, I'm over like the fake tough guys. You know, everybody wants to act tough. Well, then just give me a ring behind the scenes and we'll go have a chit-chat in the parking lot when there's no cameras. That's tough. But the whole, you know, I want him to enjoy this process and have fun because he's a great kid. He's a great talent. And just kind of, we're missing that veteran position player to kind of say, hey, bro, just slow it down just a tick for a second, have some fun.
But that totally goes back to what you were saying before, is that's where baseball is heading, that there aren't those veteran players now that are willing to go up to Manny and say, okay, this is the way you need to handle this situation, or this is what we suggest as far as post-game, because we know there's going to be questions about your actions.
Okay.
So you would think, especially with a team like the Dodgers, that there would be someone that would step up and just pull him aside and just say,
yeah, and they might have, Jen. I mean,
no, that's true.
So we don't know. I'm not on a team, but I know. I mean, Chase Utley's over there. He's one of the great leaders. You know, I'm sure something was said, but, you know, there's a lot more other scenes that you shouldn't just have to. This is a fun time is all I'm trying to say to him.
Enjoy it.
I think you're going to be late for your dinner reservation, so we should let you go. One last quick question. Is DeRosa going to be a manager soon?
No. I said, bro, you don't know how good you have it. You don't realize how good you have it, bro. You got your own TV show. You got your family stuff. If you're ready to start losing your hair and look like the managers, then let me know. But his hair is too good. Never been messed up yet. And I know if he manages, you'll start seeing some of those white things in there.
Oh, goodness. All right, Kevin, thank you so much. Go back to your party that you're having in your backyard right now. We appreciate you joining us.
Thank you so much.
All right, guys.
Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Always a joy.
What a great personality. And you can see why he's so successful in everything he does. And I wasn't kidding. He's not kidding. He was the 4th best player on his high school team. That's what my friend said. And, you know, the other 3 players, certainly not in the major leagues, far away from a major league player. He turned himself into one. And you could see he's a natural for TV because he is himself. Now, many people, if they are themselves, they wouldn't be good on TV. You know, That's good advice, but you have to have that kind of a personality like Kevin Millar, and he certainly does.
And what he said about his show, too, is making the players like real human beings. I think there's so many people out there that just idolize these guys and put them on a pedestal, and they don't realize that they put their pants on the same way that we do at home. And Kevin does a great job at bringing just the personalization out of these players, and gotta love his show. It's
definitely intentional talk. You learn a lot about the players off the field and what they are really like. And it's very positive. It really is for 99% of them.
Yeah. So before we head out, we've got one more question for you, Jon. Bigger surprise this offseason: Kershaw doesn't stay in LA or does return to Washington. What do you think?
Kershaw doesn't stay in LA. I think they're going to work it out. They extended the deadline. That makes it look like they're working on something, and they have confidence. Even if even if he does opt out, I still think they can work it out potentially. And there's no reason not to. So much reason to keep playing in LA for him and for the team. And this is not a team that's penny wise. I don't think they're going to let it blow up over a few $1 million here or there. Easy for me to say, but I've seen this team before. They made that deal with the Red Sox where they took Adrian Gonzalez and Beckett. Now, they wanted Gonzalez at the time, but Beckett and Crawford contract and spent all that money just to gain some credibility for the new regime. And so I don't think over $5, $10, $15 million they're going to let this legacy go. So I do think he will be back in L.A. Harper, to me, it could go either way. I don't rule the Nats out at all. I know some people are thinking it's unlikely. Maybe they're not the favorite. Maybe Philly's the favorite, but they're one of the 3 or 4 most likely teams, I think. So I will not be shocked if Harper ends up back in Washington.
There you have it. So you said Washington potentially. Phillies. Are there any other teams where you could see Harper going?
Well, I'm not going to rule out the Yankees. You never know. They did bring Gardner back. It doesn't look like they have room. Could Harper be a first baseman? I'm not going to rule it out. It seems like a long shot at this moment. The Giants make some sense. The Cubs, maybe. And you never know. There are surprises. Nobody saw the Diamondbacks ponying up $206.5 million for Zach Greinke. People will say only a few teams can afford, but as it turns out, the Diamondbacks have the lowest ticket price on average of any team in baseball, and they did spend $200 million on one player. So you never know. I don't think he's going to Oakland. I don't think he's going to Kansas City, but there are probably some surprise teams waiting in the weeds for both players, from Harper and Machado.
And before we wrap this up, Machado, where do you think landing spots for him are?
Yeah, Philly's the most logical one. They knew him. They drafted him. It was the same people who were in Baltimore when he was drafted by, I believe it was 2010, the Orioles. And Andy McPhail was there. Matt Kletek was there. Same cast of characters, and they liked him then. So they clearly have the money. They're going for it. John Middleton, their owner, is going to be very aggressive. So I see them as a player for both Machado and Harper. Machado, I haven't seen this much, but I think St. Louis makes some sense. I've seen Atlanta. That makes sense. The Yankees are a team that I think he'd want to go to. I think the Yankees are thinking about it very seriously. I've seen things where it says that they're turned off a little bit by what they saw. But in the end, I do think talent rules, so I think he'll get a good contract wherever it is. And, I wouldn't rule out the Yankees for Machado. I think that's a very real possibility.
Well, we'll be paying attention to your Twitter timeline because we all know you're the best at breaking the news out there. So keep it locked, Jon Heyman. Thank you so much for everyone that joined us this week. Kevin Millar's the best. And make sure to keep it locked on Fancred as well. Lots of breaking news breaking on Fancred. Jon, you're the best. Happy Thursday. Thank you all. And we'll see you soon.
Same to you. Thanks a lot. Good to see you.